Online at consumerqb.com.
All right, Brandon Rhymes Consumer Quarterback Show, powered by the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. We've got Jared Parker in the house, and we got a lot of great information for you coming up on Economic Outlook. He just came back from Tallahassee, so his company is Regional Economic Consulting Group. They do impact studies, vacant land, best use impact studies. So we're going to get a lot of information from Jared Parker here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Before we do, we always like to feature our real estate listings, and I want to ask you a question too. What would you do if the power went out in your home? Let's say it's 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. Power goes out, and you pull up your cell phone, and oops, no cell phone. What would you do in that situation? Well, I would say, remember this. Go to Satellite Phone Store, sat123.com. Check out sat123.com/REQB. And I say this because we are in and I got air quotes here. You can't see me on the show, but I got air quotes in an election year here, guys. So what if the power went out, and what if you had no cell phone? sat123.com/REQB. At least you're going to be able to talk to your friends. You're going to be able to talk to people that are in the know about what's happening, what happened, what's going on. Maybe it's nothing nefarious. Maybe it's some kind of a natural occurrence of a sunburst or something along those lines. But what if it wasn't? What if there's things happening that you need to know about? sat123.com/REQB. Get your satellite phone today. All right, a couple of hot listings here from the Consumer Quarterback Show, powered by the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. We've got a property at 530 Heaton Forest Road, Cashiers, North Carolina. Now, this one is actually what we call a co-listing in a sense, but it's listed by the Bill DeVore real estate team up in Cashiers, North Carolina. This is a gorgeous property, 11 bedrooms, 10 bathrooms, 10,000 plus square feet, 530 Heaton Forest Road, Cashiers, North Carolina. Now, and you may say, Brandon, well, why are you telling us about a property in North Carolina? Well, because we have a nationwide network, Keller Williams Realty. We work with all of the best. We are the #1 real estate company in the world. So we work with Bill DeVore and his team, KW Professionals, Keller Williams Luxury Division up in the Carolinas. And this is a gorgeous mansion. You actually have 2 different homes on the site, over 20 acres of land, luxurious oasis in High Hampton. This one is the main residence boasts 7 spacious bedrooms, 7 lavish bathrooms, complemented by a separate guest house featuring 4 bedrooms, 4 comfortable bedrooms, and 3 stylish bathrooms. The property offers unparalleled privacy and serenity. Indulge in the epitome of luxury living with exquisite finishes and impeccable craftsmanship throughout. Beautiful property, mansion listed, Bill DeVore real estate team, 530 Heaton Forest Road, Cashiers, North Carolina. And you can see all of our local listings at PlatinumCoastalElite.com. Check out PlatinumCoastalElite.com. All right, Jared Parker in the house. And Jared, that area up there is like a really high level. I mean, in terms of golfing too. I mean, the golf community at High Hampton, you got like Michael Jordan going there all the time, Phil Mickelson, and some of the bigger names, right?
Oh yeah, Andy Roddick. I think has a house, or at least used to have a house up there.
Yeah.
I know Nicole Kidman goes there too.
Okay.
Time to time.
Yeah.
And Keith Urban. I mean, it's a really elite area.
Cashiers, North Carolina.
Oh yeah.
What's that close to? Trying to remember the closest. Was that
Asheville's about an hour and a half away.
That's okay. That's where we flew in one day. We went up there.
Yeah, Asheville's nearby. North Georgia is maybe 45 minutes.
Oh, that's great.
Down the road. So
what an awesome area.
It's really well located.
I'd love to go hunting up in that area.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That'd be awesome, man. All right, Jared Parker, you just came back from Tallahassee. What kind of takeaways did you have? What'd you see and hear up there?
Oh, well, session kicked off about 2-3 weeks ago. So we start before every year. We do a 60-day session. So that started January 9th. I went up there for the last 2 weeks, working on just a couple little policy items. We do a lot of work with Florida Transportation Builders. We do a lot of work with Florida Tax Watch. And that the theme this year is kind of pulling back on spending, which is nice to see, and trying to give a little bit of money back through tax cuts and cool the budget down, not go crazy, not over bond it, over leverage it, and drive us into a situation that you see in New York or California.
Absolutely, and I think that's why we are #1 in the in migration. We're number one in the nation. California, by the way, dead last. They got out migration. Some crazy numbers. Talk to me through something you just mentioned. What did you mean when you're talking about the bond situation? Talk to me about that.
So they'll do. Every state does it differently, but you're supposed to run a balanced budget. Now, if you have less revenue than you have spending, you have to bond it. You have to borrow. And states like California will have I won't call it unrestricted bonding, but the standards to bond is very loose.
Right.
And then we have other states like Florida, for example, where bonds are tied to specific trust funds. So when you do the lottery, the money that you pay for a lotto ticket goes into the education trust fund, and then they bond it. They'll bond part of that against it to fund schools.
Wow.
Same thing. Another thing is you pay taxes on your utility bill. That goes into what's called a public education capital outlay fund. Eventually, it gets there, and then that fund is bonded to build buildings on university campuses.
Wow.
So we're pretty good. We have a AAA credit rating. So
state of Florida.
Yeah, fiscally the state is very sound.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so, man. It's amazing, the leadership of Governor DeSantis. The differences when you compare and contrast. I don't know if you saw that Fox with Sean Hannity and comparing and contrasting DeSantis versus Newsom. It was like night and day, man. It was unbelievable, and just you can't help but feel sorry for the guy because he's sitting there lying through his teeth on some of these things. They put the stat up there, and it's like, wait, that's not what the stat says. You're saying the complete opposite of what the stat's saying on the screen.
Yeah, they'll try to. They'll try to twist it in such a way that it makes it sound better than maybe what reality really is.
Yeah.
Florida's out of all the states, especially like you were saying, we are the number one in migration coming into the state. I mean, we get about 800 to 1,000 people moving here every single day.
Wow.
So you figure 2.5 people as a household, that means you need about 200 to 300 new homes built just to sustain that population. You need the roads, you need retail, you need commercial.
Yeah.
And if you don't manage well and that gets out of hand, then you have too many people and you have a serious problem on your hands.
Yeah, especially like back in the day. I remember like 06, actually it would have been 04, 05. You had certain paramedics, first responders couldn't afford to live. And for example, I think one of the worst in the state was the Sarasota area, Bradenton, Sarasota, got way out of hand. The appreciation happened so fast and there was less replenishment of the housing, like you mentioned. Does that stick out to you as one of the worst in the state back in that time?
It's still a challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, they have counties and states have what are called a Sadowski Trust Fund, which is like affordable housing. It helps with down payments on homes for low income, and really low income in a state like Florida, when the money is increasing so rapidly, is not low income for most other states. I mean, I want to sit there. I don't remember the numbers completely off the top of my head, but I know you can still be in the range of $35,000, $40,000 a year and qualify for some of these benefits.
Right.
But a big reason why they have to offer that is because they need the affordable housing, because not everybody's going to make $200,000, $300,000 a year,
right? And
there's still jobs for those people that are making less to do.
Exactly.
The Keys is a really good example of this, of where the property values are $800,000-$900,000,
right?
And who can afford that if you're working in a restaurant?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We're talking with Jared Parker here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. I'm your host, Brandon Rhymes. Now, Jared and his partners run a company called Regional Economic Consulting Group, and you do impact studies, economic outlooks. Talk to me in terms of the impact studies that you're looking at doing right now, or maybe in the near future.
We do normally when we do an impact study. So it takes an idea that says, how much am I going to spend in this area, and then what does that mean to the economy of the area? So what we'll do is we'll figure out exactly how the spending is going to flow over time, because if you're doing a large construction project, it might take 15 to 19 months to complete. So we'll figure out how that construction is going to impact the economy, and then once that construction is built, we're going to figure out how the new business that's going to run out of that project, how much money they're going to make, how much they're going to spend every year. And then we'll also try to figure out if, let's say, you're condos or you're a hotel and you're bringing in tourists or you're bringing in new residents, what's their spending going to look like in the economy? And the study ultimately wraps those facets together and produces things like how many jobs this is going to lead to, how much new paychecks, how much new money is going to be spent locally, and really what's important for local governments is tax revenue. How much property tax, impact fees, and any other kind of permitting that might go along with the project.
Right.
They'll use that, and it'll help them plan. and then also developers can use it and talk with the city to sit there and say, hey, we're bringing all this new spending to you. Is there a possibility for an abatement? You know, can I get some kind of tax break to help encourage development in your city versus me going over here where they're also offering similar benefits?
Right. Yeah, and I think it's going to vary between asset type, property type, right? In terms of what you're doing. I got a deal under contract right now. It's kind of frustrating because it's a $3 million deal, and I won't say which municipality is doing this, but they're coming back and they're saying, well, we kind of like this deal. We'll conditionally approve this deal. It's 20 plus acres, $3 million purchase, and it's a situation where the builder developer is going to put in warehouse. So he's going to build just, kind of wrought iron buildings. And they come back and they initially says, well, we're going to conditionally approve this, but we need you to redo the bridge, refurbish the bridge. We need you to add some turning lanes, refurbish the road. And there's a couple other small requirements. No big deal. It's just an extra $3 million that's going to cost, right? Yeah. So then now the challenge is whether they're going to say that or complete replacement of the bridge, which would totally kill the deal.
Right. And I think, too, in a situation like that, if you can tie actual analysis to it and sit there and say, well, look, these are the benefits if this property's here. This is what's not going to happen if this property's not here. And, that can sometimes, not always, because it is ultimately up to the council and commissions and whoever's overseeing it. But sometimes that kind of information in front of them can make them think twice and say, all right, maybe we can work with you in a way to help alleviate our concerns and still bring in the project. Because the community needs it.
Yeah, absolutely. We need that. You need the development, and you just wonder if the counties, in a certain sense, are like, well, there's it's so in demand that they're it's a strategic advantage for them. In other words,
yes, and that happens,
right? Yeah.
That can definitely happen, and I just think a lot of the times if you just put the facts in front of them,
right,
it's hard to argue against it, even if they have an ulterior motive. You're still sitting there saying, well, if this project creates 300 jobs,
right?
Why, if that gets out in the public,
right?
How is that a good thing for me to stop?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely a chance to put some facts into play and be a good negotiator and bring that to the table. We're talking with Jared Parker here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, Regional Economic Consulting Group. I'm your host, Brandon Rhymes. And similar when you look at condos, I want to talk about condos because that's a big area, and insurance is another major problem in the state of Florida right now. Insurance, people are hurting. People are, of course, not only dealing with Biden inflation and everything that's happened over the last 3 years, but you also have in the state of Florida now, insurance being a major challenge. Did you hear any conversations around insurance up there? And then I also sub question 2 would be about condos as well.
Oh, yeah. Insurance is a huge, huge issue. I know we've done, I want to say, two bills that they've tried to push. They have pushed through. One, I know, introduced new hurricane standards, storm hardening. The other one was working with the insurance companies, basically trying to get them, ultimately.
Incentivize them.
Yeah, incentivize them to stay here. I mean, the biggest issue with insurance is that, number one, locally in the state, we can't agree who's at fault. I know insurance companies point to trial lawyers point to insurance companies,
yep.
Roofers point to insurance companies and trial lawyers. So it's like everybody's pointing at everybody.
Yep.
I think a big issue though is reinsurance, and that's the companies in Bermuda and London,
secondary market,
Lloyd's, correct, the secondary market, the guys that insure the insurers.
Right.
They don't want to insure Florida, and the challenge the state has is getting to convince the reinsurers that this is a safe state.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, they point to things like global warming and hurricanes becoming more intense. And they're saying, well, look, you've got 1,000 people a day moving to your state. The insurable value of real estate in the house is exponential. In the houses, the homes, is exponentially increasing. If a hurricane comes in or a Cat 5 comes in and wipes out a lot of that, your premiums are too low. The premiums that the insurers are paying to the reinsurers is too low, and the reinsurers want to account for that. So they want to bump those premiums, but then when those premiums get passed on to the people on the ground that are actually getting insured, for the guys that actually own the house, it's driving insurance prices up.
Yeah.
So it's a very complex issue.
Yeah, it is very complex, and we're going to go to break. But when we come back, I want to talk to you about how I believe BlackRock plays into that. Okay, because there's some more that kind of underlies there that it takes a little bit more than what we have here to say. We're going to take a quick break. More with Jared Parker coming up on the Consumer Quarterback Show, Regional Economic Consulting, and how does BlackRock come into play? And if you don't know who BlackRock is, they're one of the largest companies on the planet, $10 trillion in assets under management. Them and two other companies own about, I think it's 78% or so of the S&P, of the entire S&P. So we'll be right back here. More on the Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
Hey, I'm Ken Shamrock, and you're here with Consumer Quarterback Show. And I say, Brandon Rhymes, knock out your competition.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 727-263-3707. Online at consumerqb.com.
Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. They offer the very best nationwide coverage on 4G and 5G LTE networks and exceptional 100% U.S.-based customer support. Patriot Mobile offers discounts for veterans and first responders, NRA members, and families with multiple lines. Learn more at patriotmobile.com/consumer QB. That's patriotmobile.com/consumer QB. Or if you'd like to give us a call, you can reach out at 727-263-3707. That's 727-263-3707. And we'd be happy to tell you more about Patriot Mobile. Selling commercial, vacant land, or residential properties? Don't leave money on the table. List with the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. I'm Brandon Rhymes. You can reach me at 727-263-3707. Call or text 727-263-3707. Online at consumerqb.com.
You're listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-917-1894.
And we're back. Brandon Rhymes here, Consumer Quarterback Show, powered by the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. We always help you sell faster for more money. In studio here with Jared Parker, Regional Economic Consulting, and hot listing here at 1919 West Lemon Street. This is in South Tampa. This is Hyde Park, one of the most highly desired areas in all of Tampa Bay. We got a 2-1 down here, bungalow, North Hyde Park, almost 1,400 square feet of heated square foot living. You have an expansive 7,405 square foot lot with endless possibilities here in South Tampa, close to UT, Tampa International Airport, Ray J, and more. 1919 West Lemon Street in Tampa. And you can see all of our real estate listings at PlatinumCoastalElite.com.
Try that in a small town. See how far you make it down.
All right, we're talking about BlackRock here with Jared Parker, Regional Economic Consulting Group, and when we were talking about these secondary insurers, so I want to try to summarize this as quickly as I can because this is could be a long bunny trail. But in essence, what I see happening, what I think is happening from my point of view, and some of the other podcasters that I've listened to and seen, is that you have the ESG and the DEI. Basically, I'll lump them together with the climate cult people, right? BlackRock, Larry Fink, I believe, he's been on stage saying we're going to force behaviors, right? So he's basically, here's a corporation saying we're going to force people to do things, right? Not just a corporation, $10 trillion under asset management corporation. And they don't see eye to eye with DeSantis, to say the least. And so I think it's a punitive move by them and the control that they yield against DeSantis because of the way he stood up to Disney and the whole thing. So I think that's where that kind of plays out and that kind of goes. And we're having problems with some of these insurers coming back to the state.
Yeah, especially with the ESG stuff. I mean, the idea of ESG is to sit there and steer investment away from returns on investment.
Exactly.
Into, what's a bigger impact to the community.
Right.
And, they offer these environmental social governance scores.
Exactly.
That's to drive you away from, money. And ultimately in economics, money leads the economy. It's the invisible hand.
That's capitalism. That's free capitalism. This is how even Disney came out and their attorney said, hey, if you're going to do this, you got to put it into the, what is it, prospectus or whatever. Basically, the attorney talk at the bottom of an investment has all these, normally it's fast red on the screen, right? Blah, 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 real fast. You can't hear it. They said, you better put that in there or you're going to get sued. Yeah. Because you're putting these things ahead of the shareholder's return or the investor's return.
Yeah, the fiduciary responsibility.
Fiduciary. That's exactly right. That's the word for it. All right. Jared Parker, Regional Economic Consulting. Talk to me about what is the economic outlook for the state of Florida?
It's interesting. So we started forecasting data is what we started doing, and the state actually does it for the budget when they want to know how much revenue is going to come in the door, and then once that's certified, they can then budget up to whatever that certified level is. So we as a firm said, well, we all come from the state, we might as well start doing this. And my partner actually had a big hand in designing the current models that the state uses. So we developed our own, and we developed it statewide, and then we actually do forecasting for each individual county. So we can chase trends and see where housing growth is, where the new construction trends are going, how is construction shifting out of South Florida because South Florida is full into Central Florida. That's all in our data.
Wow.
Up in Tallahassee at the State of the Taxpayer dinner, we had Attorney General was there and State CFO Jimmy Petronas was there, as well as the Speaker of the House. We had a lot of high-profile guests. We delivered the economic outlook on the state, and ultimately, what we're telling people right now is that the outlook's good, it's strong, but the bump we saw in the growth coming out of COVID is slowing because things are coming back to normal, and ideally, 23, 24, 25, really out to 2028, it's going to be what 2020 to 2024 should have looked like if COVID never happened. And it's just strong, stable growth. I mean, we're still anticipating as many as 820 people moving to the state each and every day, which means you're still going to need a third of that in new constructed houses. You're still going to need the transportation infrastructure. You're still going to need the new commercial properties and economic development to keep these populations moving.
Yeah. Now, is there? I heard a rumor. I don't know if it's rumor or not. Maybe you could verify. Is there's a separate roadway or across the state? It's going to be some kind of Jacksonville to Orlando, Miami thing. Maybe that's going to be just for truckers only.
That's a rumor.
Okay, rumor. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I've heard rumblings of it, but as far as like anything technical, being laid down in plans right now, not yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
And even a project like that, you're probably talking 10 to 15 years.
It's huge
just
undertaking.
To get, and you're talking 10 to 15 years probably of construction, and then you're talking another 5 years plus of planning. So,
I mean, that's almost as like the big dig up in Boston that they had.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
And I would love for them to take semis off the road.
Yeah.
And it was like a zigzag through between I-4, I-10 on the north side, 95 and 75, and just trying to divert everything.
Yeah.
And they've also been trying to build turnpikes off of 75 to run up towards Tallahassee, go west, to jump onto I-10.
Yep.
But a lot of that land that they would have had to purchase in that area, it's owned by I know there's a few timber trusts.
And they're like, we're not going to sell.
They don't want to. Well, they don't want to sell. A lot of that land's also owned by the paper companies too, and so they need the land to harvest the trees to keep making paper.
So many more questions, so little time. Jared Parker, thanks for coming in. How do you want people to connect with you, man?
Just go to our site, regionaleconomicconsulting.com. That's the easiest way to connect with us. I know soon we're going to be revamping a whole lot of stuff, so I definitely would look forward to people coming visiting us there.
Check out the website, regionaleconomicconsulting.com.
Thanks.
Jared Parker. Thanks for coming in, man. Appreciate it. It was good stuff there. All right. Hey, another great show. I want to thank all of our expert contributors, our producers. We want to thank Tyler Nguyen, Blue Gray Mortgage. We want to thank Jared Parker as well. Also, yesterday's show, Thomas King, Florida Firearms Academy. Another great lineup there as well. I would encourage you to check out our YouTube channel. We've got a lot of great content, over 2,500 videos or so on the website. At youtube.com/Brandon Rhymes Realty. A lot of great resources there. ConsumerQB.com there as well. You can see all of our expert contributors. Please go out there and consider committing a random act of kindness. We'll see you next time. ConsumerQB.com.
You've been listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.